Good afternoon and welcome to An Outside View. I'm your host, Dick Sicaro, and joining me today is my guest and good friend, Richard Pilla. Richard, welcome to the Outside View.
Good evening, Mr. Zuccaro.
I was happy to see that you announced your candidacy for Board of Assessors.
Yes, I did.
And the election is next Saturday, June 4th. Polls are open 8
Right.
a.m. to 8 p.m. and it's important for you people to get out and exercise your rights to vote. And Board of Assessors is a very important board in town. I know I'm one of the assessors, and there is a seat open due to a vacancy by Robert Bushway is retiring and leaving, and there's two candidates running. Last night I believe you had a forum.
Yep, at
Debate.
the library.
With your opponents. So let's start off, Richard, if you want to give the people, I know you were an RTM, you served with me for a number of years. You were also a Norfolk County Advisory Board member. You're a businessman in the real estate business, commercial, industrial real estate. So why don't you tell people briefly a quick background and some of your qualifications and why you chose to run for the Board of Assessors seat in Walpole?
Well, my name is Richard Pilla. My wife and I moved to Walpole. This November will be 13 years. And I'm in the commercial real estate business. I own a real estate advisory firm specializing in commercial real estate, in particular retail real estate. And yes, I did serve as an RTM in Walpole for 6 years. I represented the town on the Norfolk County Advisory Board. I served as the chair of the Old Town Hall Reuse Committee when the police department were under construction to build their new station. The select board put together a committee to look at Old Town Hall and how it could be put back to use. And after 2 years of many, many meetings with the public and visiting other communities that had similar facilities that were mothballed, so to speak, we came up with a plan which we think was a very good plan. Mm-hmm. And part of the plan was not only what improvements we would make to the building, but how you pay for those improvements. And we showed ways in which it could be done without going to the taxpayers. I had made that statement from the very beginning, that we were going to look at ways of how to put this building back to its original purpose, when it was constructed over 100 years ago, and came up with a plan that did exactly that. And there were certain financing models that we looked at where it would not cost the taxpayers, any money.
Great.
We did an audit of the building, a physical audit of the building to see exactly what condition it was in, and how much work was to get it back to the point where at least it would not continue to have deferred maintenance. Right now, there's a tremendous amount of deferred maintenance. And when we worked on when we looked at how we could show where the town could save money, and we looked at the pension fund, the money that we could have saved had the town, and I'll get into that in a second, but the money that the town could have saved by being in a better investment fund could have paid for all the work that was needed to put that building back. So that's something I feel very good about. The plan hasn't been implemented. I don't know how much of an effort the town made in really going after that. We presented that plan in June of 2019. And perhaps in all fairness to the town administrator and the select board, that 6 months later, this virus hit America. And that kind of put everything on its heels. And and many people just didn't know what the impact of that virus was going to be. And today we know, but that's a story for a different time. But getting back to when we looked at the where the town invests its pension dollars, we showed, when we first said that you need to move from the county system to the state pension system, no one really took us serious. They said, well, if you show us the numbers, we'll take a serious look. And we showed them. We went back over the last 10 years and had the town invested in the state pension, participated in the state pension fund versus Norfolk County pension fund, it would have made an additional $3.72 million, and that is without any interest compounding. If you ran those numbers, it would be maybe closer to over $4 million, maybe $4.5 million. And people said, well, you can't do that. You can't. No, yes, you can. One of the reasons why I'm running for Board of Assessors is because, look, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I certainly don't want to waste my time. But there are ways in which this town can save money. We have, what, a $100 million budget? Right. If we went in there and or someone went in there and did a forensic audit, there's a lot of wasted money there. And I'll discuss that with anyone. Every year they have free cash. There's no such thing as free cash. That's taxpayer money that has been squirreled away in some account that, where is that money? Why isn't that money being used?
Right. There's about 25 million, by the way, when you add them all up.
When you add up
unrestricted cash, short-term cash, stabilization funds,
right,
enterprise accounts, capital projects that were voted on back in the late 90s that maybe have been overestimated,
right,
and there's surplus dollars left over that
right,
they squirrel away, as you said.
That's right.
Instead of applying it towards the budget where they could actually lower the 2.5%
right,
taxes.
Or pay for some projects that needed to be done with that money, rather than going to the taxpayers and say, oh, we have to fund this. So
what happened, going back to the pension, what happened to that?
Well, this is, I don't blame people for being upset, right, with government, whether it's on the federal, state, county, or local level. Because one should ask the question, are they really looking out for us, the people? Right. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running for Board of Assessors. I'm not going there if the people elect me, obviously. But if the voters elect me on June 4th, I'm not going there to go along to get along. I'm just not that type of an individual. I want to go there and show where you can save the taxpayers. How would you like to be a person, a couple, that lived in this town for 30, 40, 50 years? You raised your family, and all that period of time, 60 years, all that period of time, you paid your taxes. And those tax dollars went to fund municipal services, police, fire, public works, recreational programs, schools. Mm-hmm. And then one day you find out that they can't afford to live here anymore because the taxes are getting higher and higher and higher.
Which is happening.
It most certainly is. And that's why, you know, the theme of my campaign is to keep Walpole affordable. Well, there are only so many things that the assessors can do. They oversee tax abatements, and they go look at the split between, the shift between residential property taxes and commercial.
Industrial and...
Industrial, yeah,
and
right, right.
4 categories.
Well,
Yeah.
and so they can make recommendations, but if the board, to the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, but if the Select Board doesn't want to take those recommendations, it doesn't have to. And to me, if that were the case, the Select Board isn't doing their job. And one of their responsibilities is to look after, they're supposed to be custodians of tax dollars.
Correct.
They're not supposed to be spenders of tax dollars, but to invest tax dollars in providing the highest level of service for what those tax dollars can bring. Mm-hmm. Every year, we, because of Proposition 2.5, every town, city and town in Massachusetts can increase the taxes by up to 2.5%. You mean to tell me that every year, they have to tax to the max, to the full 2.5%? No.
Right.
And a clear indication of that is all of this free cash that comes about. Well, free cash is money, tax dollars that came in,
Right.
that didn't go towards police, fire, public works, et cetera. But it's in excess of those costs. The other thing that the Select Board should be doing is zero-based budgeting. Now, you and I have spoken about this multiple times. And this is something, whenever I brought it up to the powers to be, oh, no, we really look at each budget. Well, do you really? You mean to tell me that because if your budget was $500,000, a department budget was $500,000 one year, and you're allowed to increase it up to the 2.5%. You mean to tell me that every year you're undertaking programs, providing services that cost that amount of money and then some? You mean from year to year, maybe the cost of services or to provide certain services isn't different? In Public Works, one year you say, well, we have to buy 100 shovels. Every year, you're going to have to buy 100 shovels. What'd you do with the 100 from the year before?
Right.
Because when the department heads submit their budgets, there are line items. Okay, this year it's shovels. This year it's something else. And so if we adopted zero-based budget, instead of keep on increasing an automatic 2.5%, you start from zero. And the department heads go into the town administrator, go before the Select Board, the Finance Committee, and they should say, okay, this is what we're going to look, here are our goals for this year. This is what we're looking to accomplish this year. Okay, well, what do you need to do that? What is the cost of doing that?
Right.
That's how it should be.
Right.
You know how much more money you could save by just adopting zero-based budgeting?
Sure.
And it's as simple as a majority vote of the Select Board to say, this is how we're going to do it.
Right. Getting back to recommendation of the joining the state retirement system and also
Oh,
the
yeah.
state GIC healthcare,
Right.
which is much less costly, and you have the same, basically same providers, and your premiums would be a lot lower. So what happened basically, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, at the last town meeting that we were both RTMs, it was almost unanimously voted in favor of to commission the town to do a study.
Right.
The benefits of joining the system. And
Right.
if they do decide to join, they'll have to create their own retirement board. However, if you want to enlighten the viewers with the conversation you had with, I believe, the town administrator, who said that town council said it was a non-binding vote. Now, I don't
Right.
understand that when the majority, about 145 RTMs out of 150, vote in favor of commissioning a study. Why was the ball field not a non-binding vote?
Why is any article on the town warrant non-binding?
Right, I don't understand that.
If the town meeting, and the town meeting is a town's legislative body. The select board is the executive branch, and the town meeting is the legislative branch. Town meeting is the one that has to approve all spending items, articles.
Right.
So if a vote of town meeting is non-binding, that means that every
Exactly.
vote of town meeting on every article
Yeah, good point. Including
since the
third-
beginning of when we adopted the charter that we have
Right,
was non-binding.
right. Well, they haven't heard the last that we.
Oh, no,
we
no,
have-
no,
we
no,
have to
no,
follow
yeah.
up on that.
You know.
But you bring up some good points. I'm reviewing your flyer here, and I see you keep Walpole affordable. And if you think, you make a statement, if you think your property taxes are high now, just wait. Well, part of the Board of Assessors, every year, with the new fiscal year, we are assigned a task to recommend to the Select Board a tax shift. Now, basically what a tax shift is, if you increase the tax shift, let's say for residential properties, then the tax rate and the amount of taxes that the residents pay will decrease, and it'll be reassigned to either the other three categories, commercial, industrial, or land. So at the last meeting, I got up and spoke, you were there at the meeting, and I recommended, for years they've been using, last 5-6 years, the same tax shift for the residents, 1.27. I recommended they increase it to 1.34. That would have given the residents about a $100 break on average, but they turned it down. They kept it the same. And you, in real estate, commercial real estate, particularly understand that assessed values in New England have been skyrocketing over the last several years, maybe the last decade, averaging, I don't know, 8% a year increase. So not only are you paying the tax rate, the $14 and some odd cents per thousand, but you're paying on increased assessed values, 2.5%. So when you take the total tax levy of all the assessed property values of residential, commercial, industrial land, add it up, then you come up with your tax levy, 2.5% of that. And then, as I think what you mean here, just with it, when they go outside that levy, they have to have an override.
Right.
Or a debt service exclusion, which they did for the new middle school. That was a controversial vote as well. And they're spending about $115 million on that school. State aid is off because of the pandemic. I think the state's only giving them 33 million. So the residents, once again, in commercial, footing that $83 million. So next fiscal year, the first 20 million that will be applied to the schools
Right.
will hit up.
Right.
So the average tax bill of you viewers out there will be going up, we estimate, anywhere between $500 to $1,500. And that's for next fiscal year.
Right.
So when we have our next meeting, if you're a Board of Assessor and you're successfully elected on the 4th, we have a major decision to make. What will the tax shift be? I mean, there's ways we can offer a residential tax exemption, commercial tax exemption, elderly tax credit based on, I think some of the select people want to base it on the state circuit tax breaker, which is very limited. Rhode Island has one of the towns,
Well,
once you turn 62,
the
your
Central
taxes,
Central
your
Falls.
tax rate and your assessed value are frozen forever.
Frozen.
Now, what would you be in
Well,
favor of?
that's, well, a few things. Earlier I said that, what about the people who lived in this town 30, 40, 50, 60 years? They raised their families here. They love the town. They're the people who built the town. They're the people who made the town what it is.
Right.
The families are now grown. Maybe they moved to other communities, other parts of the country. The parents are still there. They're on fixed incomes. They can't afford those tax increases. So one of the things that, again, if I'm elected, then we're going to look at ways of freezing those taxes, just as you had just indicated, that people still have to pay the taxes on the property. The town still has to function. But why should they pay the increase? They don't use the services that younger families do. They don't have children in school anymore.
Yeah.
They're not going to the parks for recreation purposes. They don't cause problems with the police department, right? So the services that they need are not what they were when they were raising a family and there were more people in the household.
Right.
Why can't those taxes be frozen? Because they have a less demand for the services. But one of the things I said at the debate last evening was, when we're talking about our respective experience, I've been working for corporations, institutions, financial, government institutions, investors for over 35 years. To me, the answer is, or part of the answer is you want to create value. And that's why I said in a response when the question was asked is, the Board of Assessors should be sitting down with Economic Development, the Planning Board, the Select Board, who else did I say? And others, engineering, DPW, and say, okay, look, this is what we have. I want to know, do we have we ever done an audit of all commercial industrial property in Walpole? Have we done an audit of an inventory of commercially zoned, developable land that's not generating any value or significant value? We should be looking at what we have in this town and say, okay, the taxes on those properties is $10,000. How can we get those properties to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000?
Right.
The more money the more value you are able to create, you're generating a larger revenue flow. And the larger the revenue flow is, the less you have to go back to the residential taxpayers. I don't think we've ever done that in this town. Maybe I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Now, I have to share a story. This relates to the $115 million spent on the middle school, and from what I understand now, they're commissioning a study to spend $30 million to renovate the high school. But as I was walking around some neighborhoods, one happened to be an elderly complex, and I knocked on this woman. She was a sweet woman. She was 92 years old, and we got talking.
So you're the same age?
Just about. And we got talking, and she shared her life experiences with me. She was a school teacher in the city of Boston for like 45, 50 years. And she said, when I was a teacher, she said, the schools we taught in, they weren't state-of-art schools. She said, but the good quality was there with the teachers. She said, it's not the classroom that makes the education for the students. It's the quality of teaching by the teacher.
That's right.
And it dawned on me, I said, this woman is right. She's
How
right on
old,
the
how
money.
old is Harvard University? They're in the same buildings that were today, that were built 150, 200 years ago? Yes, of course, they've been modernized. They have air conditioning now. The heating system is different. And they're wired differently to accommodate all of the electronics, et cetera.
Right.
I would be more concerned about the quality of education,
And the
not necessarily the quality of the building.
And the
A
curriculum.
facility is important, yes, but are our students learning the skills in order for them to be successful in the marketplace today and tomorrow? That's the question that all parents should ask.
Right.
But we're getting off the track a little bit, but
I just follow up on that comment. So I responded to this 90-year-old woman, retired teacher. I said, thank you for, teaching all those years. You should be commemorating. I said, but look at honest Abe Lincoln, one of our greatest presidents ever. He was self-educated, and he sat down with candlelight and learned to read. And the curriculum is in question, but that's more for the school committee members.
Right,
But
right.
things are getting crazy today all over. So let's say you are elected. We know what you stand for now, and some of the other things that you'd be pushing for, which is you're right on the money as far as I can see. And I agree with you. There are other alternatives other than taxing to the max, as you say all the time. So what else do you think we can do as far as the abatement process goes when someone comes before for an abatement?
well, the abatement's got to be fair, and people who come for an abatement, in many cases, they're justifiable, but in other cases, they're not, and so the board of assessors cannot be a rubber stamp. Okay, this is what you're looking for. All right, fine, we'll approve it. No. They have to show, they have to demonstrate. If someone's coming in for an abatement, they have to demonstrate why they deserve an abatement.
Right.
And I think the process is going to be spelled out very clearly. So when people come in, they know what the drill is. And they know that they're going to be very, very convincing. Others have said the hardest word in the vocabulary is no.
Right.
The hardest word to say is no.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Good point.
more times when you're the custodian of taxpayer dollars, that should be the first word you say, no. Now convince me otherwise.
Right. Good point.
The same thing at town meeting. The same thing in particular in the finance committee. The finance committee, they just love to approve it. Somebody goes in and they make their case and they say, okay, fine, we'll approve it. But when someone goes in and says, you can make more money if you do this,
Right.
then they run you around the merry-go-round.
And I think it's communication, and then I think a lot of, particularly as you point out, elderly citizens, people on limited fixed incomes. There are some programs, folks, that you can take advantage of. There's a state circuit breaker where you get a tax credit for the elderly. There's an elderly tax relief fund that we have here in town. And if you're, I believe if you're single income earner, it's about 30,000. I think you can't make over that, which isn't much today. If you're married, filing joint return, it's 40. Your house can't be, if you own a home assessed for X amount of dollars, you can't have X amount of dollars in a bank account or other assets. So it's kind of real restrictive and limited, but for those of you that qualify, I urge you can put in for it once a year. There's also a tax workout program down the senior center where you can volunteer your time, you'll knock off $1,000. There's the abatement process that Richard just mentioned. not only can you file for an abatement in the town, but if you turn down, you can go to the county, believe it or not, because you do pay a small county tax
That's
every
right.
year. And you can appeal it to the state appellate tax board as well. So we have about...
Well, there's also the other evening at the select board meeting, the subject of tax credits for seniors.
Right.
And my understanding is that the response was, tax relief for seniors. And the comment was, well, there's a bill that's going up at the legislature where it's to provide a tax credit for seniors. Have you ever dealt with the legislature?
Yeah,
You have. I know you
unfortunately,
have.
yes, unfortunately.
Well, there's a means test in order to qualify for that tax relief. It's almost you have to be indigent in order to qualify.
Right.
So, it sounds good, but when you look at the fine print,
Right.
how many people are really going to be able to benefit from that?
Exactly. And that's
Right.
where I think the head of the select board in this town, they might entertain LD tax credit, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna tie it into the very rigid, fiscally limited state circuit breaker tax.
Right. Oh, yeah, they'll do that.
Right.
Um,
I like
and-
your suggestion of a blanket, as soon as you hit
Blanket, you
62,
see,
65.
whatever the age is,
Right.
right? And there may be other criteria, but once you hit that point, what you're paying then, that's it. Your taxes aren't going up.
Right. And for you viewers out there, again, the fiscal year 2023 takes effect July 1st of this year, when the tax shift will be discussed. So I urge you all to call up your select board members and ask them for a tax break and increase the shift so you get a tax break, because residents have very little write-offs. However, commercial businesses, they can write it off and they can go up on their end product to the user,
And pass
Right.
the,
pass it on to the end
to the
user,
consumer.
And unfortunately, multi-dwellings are tied into the residential tax rate, but in a multi-dwelling, that landlord can jack up rents unless you have rent control, but the single-family homeowner can't, so you're kind of stuck. So we have a few minutes left, Richard. Why don't you look into camera 2 there and wrap up why people should vote for Richard Pilla for the Board of Assessors next Saturday, and then maybe you can inform the people, we got about a little more than a week left, what they can do to help you out and how to get a hold of you.
As citizens, we have a responsibility, and that is, we have a civic responsibility, and that's to vote. Too often, our local elections, if we get 15, 16, 17, 18% is kind of par for the course. The more people that go out and vote sends a very clear message to RTMs, select board members, school committee, because they know people are engaged. The higher the vote count, they will say, hey, look at all these people that came out. They came out for a reason. They must be upset about something. So my first request is that you get out and vote. Regardless of who you vote for, but just go out and vote. Let people know that you really care about what's happening in the town. Because a common refrain by many people elected to office, the people don't care. Look how low the voter turnout is. They don't care. You know, they complain, but they don't do anything about it. Well, what do you do about it? Get out and vote. So the second request I have is to vote for me. Why? Because as I mentioned earlier, the theme of my running is to keep Walpole affordable. It breaks my heart when I see that, when I hear people say, oh, I can no longer live in this town, I'm going to have to sell my home and leave and move somewhere else that I really don't want to go. I've been here for all these years. You know, that's a sad state of affairs when it comes to that. When the people who built the town can't stay here for the duration and reap the benefits from having invested in the town and paid those taxes for a period of time. So money doesn't grow on trees. There are things that will come up that are justifiable. I don't think you should keep on going to the residential tax base, nor do you want to keep on increasing the taxes of the commercial tax base, because the commercial people, they can go to another town, right? Oftentimes they don't have the emotional ties to a community. Many of the times the business owners live in other towns. Their business is here. They bought the business 30 years ago. It happens to be in Walpole.
Right.
But what we need to do, so that's why I'm saying that it's not fair to any of those taxpayers to raise the taxes. Certainly not more than what you need to. Mm-hmm. That's why you got to be creative. You got to start looking at how you can create value where the value isn't there, or it is well below what it has the potential of being. And one of the things that I say in my literature is that even though there's only so much per the town charter that the Board of Assessors can do, it doesn't mean it has to stop there. We could be a research arm for the Select Board. We could be looking at other communities in other states and other parts of the country, looking at best practices. How do other communities handle this situation? Right. What programs, what initiatives have they adopted that increases the flow of revenue without burdening the taxpayer?
Good point.
It can be done, but you have to have the desire to do it. You have to have the will to do it. And the people who you are trying to convince to say, look at this, look what they did here. It's in black and white. Why can't we do this in Walpole? They have to listen. Right. And that is the third request that I would have of the audience. And that is, if we are elected, if I'm elected, I'll be working with you. We'll have a majority on the board. It's only a 3-person board. We'll be in the majority because you and I think the same way. And we can make proposals. The Select Board doesn't have to listen to our proposals, but they will if the residents, the taxpayers say, we like that idea, and Select Board, you need to listen to them. So that will be my third request. 1, vote. 2, vote for me, Richard Pilla, Board of Selectmen. And if I'm elected and Dick and I are on the board and we come up with our proposals, we're going to come back to you and say, we need your support. This is what we're proposing. We're going to let you know exactly what we're working on, exactly what we find, exactly what we're going to present to the board, but we need your support. Because without your support, it may fall on deaf ears, just like our recommendation to move from the county pension fund to the state pension fund. And you know, the money for the pension fund comes from 3 places. It comes from employee contributions. It comes from taxpayer contributions, and it comes from investment income. Well, the town employees, they're maxed out. You're not going to get any more from them. If your investment income isn't what it could be, and the fund has to be, and the program has to be funded, who's going to pay for that? The taxpayers. So by being in a more efficiently run, a larger, better funded,
Less costly.
less costly investment program that's making more money for the town, that's less money that the taxpayers have to come up with.
Right. And all they would have to do is have in the charter, they want their own retirement board. The board votes to pull out of Norfolk County where
Right.
they're currently investing and go into the
Right.
Superior State Pension Fund, which, by the way, is one of the superior performing funds in the entire country in
Right.
the public fund universe.
Right, I mean, Norfolk County has what, 1.1 billion in assets?
Right.
The state has 42 billion? Well,
Right.
think about it, right? You're gonna make a hell of a lot more money from a fund that has $42 billion versus one that has 1.1, $1.2 billion.
And the same holds true with the state GIC healthcare.
Right,
I mean, you have 450,000 members in the state system compared to probably 3,500 locally, and who's going to get the better volume discount? And you have the same providers. It's a no-brainer.
right, right.
So lastly, Richard, where, if people, we got about a week and a half left, if they want to help you out, what can they do for you? Hold a sign?
Well,
Other than go out and vote, obviously.
oh yeah, you have to go out and vote. I have a mailing going out, I'm running ads, I've got electronically sending out emails, but my email address is richard.pilla, P-I-L-L-A, @gmail.com. If you have a bunch of friends that you want to make sure get to the poll, but you want to know more about what my positions are, email me. I'll email you or snail mail you information on myself that you can share with your friends, family members, neighbors. But we all have to work together, and again, just get out and vote.
Yeah.
If you can't make it to the polls on Saturday, the polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. If for some reason you're out of town on Saturday, June 4th, you can go vote at Town Hall on Friday the 3rd, the day before, from 8 a.m. to Town Hall closes on Fridays at 12. But there's another opportunity for you to vote in person at Town Hall on Friday the 3rd from 8 or 8:30 to 12 noon.
So you have early voting and absentee ballots as well.
And absentee ballots, but I think it's too late for now, absentee ballots, to get it in the mail and send it back.
I want to thank you very much, Richard. I wish you the best of luck. And for you people out there, make sure, as Richard said, you stand up and be counted. And I'll end it with, I'm a big reggae fan, and I used to love Bob Marley. I played the drums to a lot of his songs.
Oh, you did?
And
I thought you were a trombone player.
no, drums, but maybe it sounds like the trombone.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But he always said in one of his songs, I think, stand up for your rights. He says you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time.
Right.
So I'll leave you on that note. And best of luck, Richard. Thanks
All
for
right.
coming on the show.
Thanks for
Until
having
we
me.
see you in the next episode of An Outside View. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day.